Hare Krishna, Hari Bol. Welcome, welcome to our live stream, hopefully. A little bit of technical difficulty. They suddenly changed the whole face on YouTube today without telling anybody. So I hope this is broadcasting as per normal. So today is Wednesday, the 3rd of July, 2024, and we'll have a kirtan. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari O Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Jaya Girivardhari Jaya Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Jaya Girivardhari Jaya Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari O Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare, oh Hare Bol, Hare Bol, Hare Bol, Gaura Hare Bol, Nitai Gaura Hare Bol, Hare Bol, Hare Bol. Jaya Nityananda Rai, Jaya Nityananda Rai, Nityananda Rai, Jaya Nityananda Rai. Jaya Sachinandan Jaya Gaura Hari, Sachinandan Jaya Gaura Hari. Jaya Radha Madana Mohan Radha Madana Mohan Radhe. Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Shri Radhe. Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Shri Radhe. Radhe, 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 Radhe. Jai Shishi Guru Garanga Ganhabhaga Girit Hari, Radha Madan Mohan Ju Ki Jai, Varishabhana Nandini Vajeshwari Radharani Ki Jai, Jai Nityananda Rai Ki Jai, Sachinandana Gaura Hari Ki Jai, Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai, Jai Nitya Leela Pravishta Om, Asto Tadasara Shishimad, Srila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Nitya Leela Pravishta Om Asto Tadasara Shishimad, Srila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Look on the floor.
Yes, ma'am.
Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Nitya Leela Pravishta Om Asto Tadasara Shishimad, Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj. Okay. Jai Nitya Leela Pravishta Om Asto Tadasara Shishimad, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Paramahamsa Mahabhagavat Srila Gaura Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Saptam Goswami Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Vaishnav Sabhabhoma Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Srila Baladevi Dibhushan Gaudi Varantacharya Ki Jai. Jai Rasik Sirumani Srila Vishnath Chakravarti Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Narottam Srinivas Shyamanand Prabhu Traya Ki Jai. Srila Krishna's Kaviraja Goswami Ki Jai. Shri Rup Sanatan Shri Bhata Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopal Padasa Raghunath Sad Goswami Prabhu's Ki Jai. Arupanuga Guru Varga Ki Jai. Swarup Damodar Rai Ramananda Gaura Parsada Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Sigaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Shri Gauda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Antadvip Mayapur Simantadvip Gautramdvip Madhyadvip Koladvip Ritudvip Janadvip Modamdvip Rudradvip Atmaka Navadvip Dham Ki Jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopi Go Govardhan Dwarasavar Matmika Shri Braja Mandal Ki Jai. Shri Radha Kun Shama Kun Ganga Jamuna Devi Tulsi Devi Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Shrimati Brinda Devi Maharani Ki Jai. Shrimati Yogamaya Punamasi Devi Maharani Ki Jai. Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Sudarshan Chakra Ki Jai. Ketra Mandal Ki Jai. Gopishwa Mahadev Ki Jai. Sarva Vigna Vanasa Kadishina Shingadev Bhagavan Ki Jai. Bhakta Prava Shri Prahlad Maharaj Ki Jai. Charidam Ki Jai. Chari Sampradaya Ki Jai. Chari Acharya Ki Jai. Akara Matraj Shri Chaitanya Mat Ki Jai. Shri Keshav Ji Gaudiya Mat Ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Ananta Kota Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Samagata Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Om Adinata Mirandasya Gyananjala Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Gurave Gaura Chandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tarabhaktaya Namo Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Shwa Padantikam Anapita Chirim Chirat Karunavartino Kalo Samarpaitam Unata Ujvala Risam Swabhakti Shriyam Hari Purata Sundaratu Tikatamba Sadipita Sadahridare Kandare Spuratu Vasachinandanaha Yam Pravajantamanapetyam Apetykrityam Dvaipaino Viraha Katara Ajuhava Putre Titam Mayatayo Taravo Benedustam Sarvabhutam Munimuri Ridim Munimanatoshmi Bhaktiya Vihina Aparada Lakshay Shiptascha Karmadi Tarangamadye Kripa Maitvam Sharanam Prapana Brinde Namaste Charanarvindam Pajami Radam Aravinda Netram Smarami Radam Madhurashmitasyam Vadami Radam Karuna Bharadram Tatoma Manastikatena Kapi Tavaivasmi Najivami Tvaivina Iti Vignaya Radhe Tvam Nayamam Janantikam. I'm first of all offering millions and millions of Dandavat pranams unto the lotus feet of my most beloved Gurudev Nitya Leela Pravishta Om Astau Tarazara Shishimad Srila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And I'm offering the same again, millions and millions of times, unto the lotus feet of our most beloved Nitya Leela Pravishta Om Astau Tarazara Shishimad Srila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. And again, I'm offering Dandavat pranams to our dearmost Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Satchitanandanamane Gaura Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Varayate Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai, and all our illustrious Rupanuga Guru Varga and all the Vaishnava and Vaishnavi devotees of the Lord, my Dandavat pranams to all of you. So, continuing with our Jaiva Dharma and chapter 27 today, but we'll have our Falshruti just to get the full mercy of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur in our study. This is really why we chant Falshruti. So we're into the first 5 verses on page 829. Pritivite yatakata dharma namechale bhagavata kahi shabad paripurna chale. As indicated in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.1.2, all the philosophies on earth that are celebrated as dharma are utterly deceptive. So this is a very powerful first verse of his Falshruti. He's showing clearly where we're going. Chale dharma chadikara satya dharmimati chatuvargya tyaji dara nitya premagati. One should completely abandon such deceptive dharmas and absorb his mind in true dharma. In other words, one should give up the 4-fold goals of material life, dharma, artha, karma, moksha, and aspire solely for the ultimate destination of nitya prem. Nitya prem should be our complete focus. We have no agenda in this world. There's nothing. If we're looking for a comfortable situation, if we're trying to fortify our material reputation, if we're trying to find some sort of material happiness, especially if we're trying to find liberation, then Jaiva Dharma is not going in that direction. There are many other books where you can take. The market's full of them for desiring that path. But this is very exclusive, actually. Amitva mimamsa brahme nija chade buddhi nirvishesha brahm gyan nahi chira shuddhi. Those who are deluded identify themselves with matter. That is their error. However, one cannot be purified of such delusion by endeavors for nirvishesh brahm gyan, because nirvishesh brahm gyan is the highest desire of those who are still remaining in this Brahmand. They want to become freed from the sufferings of this material world, but actually their destination is simply the Brahmajyoti, which is no sambandha, we've said many times. There's no connection with the Lord. It's a mood of neutrality. And it's just this shantaras, it's just a feeling of indulgence, the height of indulgence in the self. That's actually what it is. Ivichitrata hina hale nirvishesha hoy Kala Shimutulya Saya Aprakritanoi. The Mayavad thinks Sri Krishna to be subject to the limitations of time, such as birth and death, and considers that he is not transcendental. He can only consider that because he himself is not transcendental, the Mayavad. Thus, he rejects Sri Bhagavan's Vichitrata, astonishing characteristics, paraphernalia, qualities, and Leela. Through this vicious attempt, he is left with the philosophy of Nirvishesh Brahm. So it's interesting because the first personality that Prem Das meets in the first chapter is the Brahmagyan Sannyasi. That's so he's purifying him immediately. So we see the effect. He was purified when he saw that Vaishnava dancing and weeping, and was realizing that this is a higher state of consciousness than I've been aspiring for all these years as a Brahmagyani sannyasi. So when he realized that, then his whole direction and focus changed, and he began searching out the Vaishnavas. So this is the beginning of the book. So we're leaving all that Nirvishesh Brahm far behind, because he becomes purified, of course, as Vaishnava Das, and then his preaching is remarkable, because he had gained so many truths from the study of Shastra as a Brahmagyani, but now he was applying them fully to the path of bhakti. So he still retained that expertise in knowledge of the various scriptures, etc., but now it was all layered with a clear picture of what is devotion to the Lord, not this Advaita Siddhi, which was his previous goal to attain, because he asks in the, I think it's the first or the second chapter, is Prem synonymous with Advaita Siddhi? Because that's as far as his mind could reach. And then it's described how Advaita Siddhi only has one. It's you, the Brahman. But this path of bhakti has two. This is the, like Madhvacharya, we see always has two fingers in his hand, signifying the two personalities, Krishna and the conditioned jiva, these two vastus. Kande jnana haya dharma ache sunishchaya prakriti hoila kabu aprakritanaya. Such base and contemptible gyan, which arises out of an attempt to dismember the divine form of Bhagavan, is only fit to be rejected. It is prakrita, materialistic, and should never be given credence as aprakat dham. So we shouldn't be confused. Our whole, there are many purposes, of course, for our studying Jaiva Dharma, but principally is not to be confused about our path. I've mentioned many times this wonderful book of Bhaktivinoda Thakur's, this Bhakti Tattva Vivek, spells out clearly what is Shuddha Bhakti, what is pure Bhakti. So this we need to know. Whether we can follow that or not is a whole nother consideration. But at least we should be in knowledge of what is correct and what is not correct. We should know this. We shouldn't be in any confusion. And if we read Jaiva Dharma, we'll never be in any confusion, because Bhaktivinoda Thakur goes over the same topics, the same principles time and time again, just like in his Falshruti. It's practically repeating it constantly, again and again. So yesterday, we're coming back to our chapter 27, and it seems like success on the streaming now. We were discussing the Sattvika bhavs, and previously we had discussed the Anubhavs, and previous to that we just discussed the Vibhav, which is described as two. The Alamban, and that is divided into two, the Vishaya and the Ashraya. So the two, the exchange between, what are we focusing on? And the Anubhavs, we understood, are still hold some mental fact, some mental cognition is there, some intelligence is there when these powerful moods invade the heart. There's still a semblance of intelligence left there when these bhavs, anubhavs, and we mentioned all these anubhavs, they're all mentioned here very clearly in the Bindu. They are Nitya dancing. What are all those bhavs? Nitya dancing. Rolling on the ground, loud crying, writhing of the body. Even in these high states of emotion, there's still some understanding of what I'm doing, a semblance of that. There's some semblance of rationality there in the anubhavs, in contrast to the sattvika bhavs, where there's no semblance of connection with the mind. The mind is governed by logic and rationale and words, etc. But these high, or the highest state of sattvika bhavs is beyond that. This is why when we're hearing these truths, be just appreciative of hearing these truths. It will build a framework for our future meditation on these rasic topics. And it's very exhilarating, it's very wonderful to hear these different emotions of the heart. All, if it's pure, it's focusing on Krishna. But if it's ruruksha, we've described these three different degrees. Snigdha, what is it? Dirgda? Smooth, and Digda, and Ruksha. So the Ruksha, that bhav is not necessarily focused on Krishna. Your hairs can still stand on end, horripilation can still come even though you're not focusing on Krishna. That can happen. And then we didn't discuss much, I just read basically the description of the sattvika bhavs. And today we're coming on to page 590, which is going to describe the vyabhachari bhavs. So we're building an understanding of the vocabulary initially, and of course we can enter within that according to our adhikar, and this will ultimately give us the ingredients which are called the samagri. So the samagri are the ingredients of the four bhavs, the vibhav, anubhav, sattvika bhav, and vyabhachari bhav. And then they are all focusing on the sthai bhav. Then that together creates the samagri. It's like those are the ingredients. So we're working through this, describing carefully. So now on page 590, we've come to, in the middle, Brajanath is asking a question. Prabhu, we have understood vibhav, anubhav, and sattvika bhav. So we've just gone over those very briefly, as well as the difference between sattvika bhavs and anubhavs. So we've just described that also. Now please describe the vyabhachari bhavs. Goswami, there are 33 vyabhachari bhavs. V means distinctly, api means towards, and chari means moving. These 33 bhavs are called vyabhachari because they move distinctly towards the sthai bhav. It's being described like a lake. The lake is quite flat, but when these winds of the vyabhachari or sanchari bhavs, vyabhachari and sanchari are the same, when they play upon the lake of that sthai bhav, they create all kinds of waves of rasa, of emotional exchanges can take place there. So that's the picture, so to speak. The sthai bhav is like the lake, and the vyabhachari bhavs, and they play on that lake. Then they create in their own turn these emotions that manifest on the body as anubhavs and sattvika bhavs. That's just the science of it. Those 33 bhavs are called vyabhachari because they move distinctly towards the sthai bhav. Sthai bhav, there are 5 types of sthai bhav: shanta, dasya, sakya, vatsalya, and madhurya. These are the sthai bhav, the fixed sthai bhav. They are also called sanchari. The vyabhachari bhavs are also called sanchari bhavs because they are communicated through words, limbs, and sattva. Sattva means like existence. Through our very nature, they are communicated. And thus travel, sancharita, throughout the system. They are like waves in the nectar ocean of the staibarb, for they rise up, causing it to swell, and then they merge back into the ocean again. So that's kind of a little bit what I've just described before. This lake of the staibarb, then these waves of contrasting emotions arise to create the moods of rasa. And there's an example that we can appreciate when Krishna leaves the Rasa Leela dance with Sri Radhika. Krishna becomes most submissive to Radhika's mood, which is called Swadhina Bhartika. There's 8 heroines, and the highest heroine is when the Nayika has controlled her beloved completely. Tidy my hair, put flowers here, this, etc. She's completely controlled her beloved, and she's feeling very blissful in that control. So together they're walking through a forest, and Radhika is in this mood of Swadhina Bhartika. But all of a sudden, she remembers her girlfriends, and she knows that all the Sakhis are going crazy looking for Krishna. She can intuit, she knows that they are becoming most disturbed. So she wants them actually to catch up. But Krishna knows if they catch up and they find us together, then this is not going to be very good, because then they're going to become somewhat disturbed by me taking just you away. Better if I disappear. So Krishna arranges, and he asks Radharani, because they're walking, as I just described, Radharani is in this mood of the controller, and suddenly Krishna turns to her and says, do you want to keep walking, or do you want to come to a flower bed? Do you want to sit down? And all of a sudden, Radharani's not the controller. She says, oh, you can do what you like. You can take me to a flower bed, or we can keep walking. All of a sudden, she's given up her controlling mood. But Krishna, that's called Dakshin Bhav. That's called submissive. Now Krishna, he was already in Dakshin Bhav. So now both the bhavs are the same. So now there's no real waves of rasa. So Krishna leaves. And then Radharani, we know she goes into the highest extremity of separation. And all the gopis, they find her, and then they declare her the very queen of the rasa, because they see the potency of her separation moods. So this is an example of when the two moods become the same, then there's no real waves. But when they're contrasting, this is why Radharani, she's always taking the contrary role in the relationship. And Krishna generally is taking the submissive role, so that these waves can arise. Throughout this, because they are communicated through words, limbs, and sattva, and thus travel sancharita throughout the system. They are like waves in the nectar ocean of the staibarb, for they rise up, causing it to swell, then they merge back into the ocean again. So these Vyabhachari bars we're going to read now, they rise up, they're transitory. They will come for a period of time, and then they will disappear again. They're not permanent, but they come to enhance the exchanges. That's why they come. So we'll read them through. So 33 Vyabhachari bhavs are regret or indifference. So let me get my magnifying glass. There we go. My specs were supposed to come today, but they didn't arrive. They might come any minute, and that's the money for them on the table. They might just come through the door. So regret. Now all these are experienced by the transcendentalist, but they sound very similar to emotions that we're familiar with in the material world. But they're the origin of these emotions in the material world. And they're all focusing ultimately with Rati, that means with Krishna as the Vishaya. So regret or indifference, nirved, despair, vishad, humility, dainya, physical and mental debility, glani, fatigue, shrama, intoxication, mad, pride, garva, suspicion, shanka, fear, trasha, agitation, aveg, madness, unmad, confusion or absence of mind, apashmrita, disease, vyadi, fainting or delusion, moha, death, mrityu, laziness, alasya, inertness, jadya, bashfulness, vrida, concealment of emotions, avahita, remembrance, smriti, deliberation or reasoning, vitarka, anxiety, chinta, resolve or wisdom, mati, fortitude, driti, jubilation, harsha, ardent desire, outshakta, ferocity, ograya, impatience and indignation, amarsha, envy, osaya, osuya, restlessness, chapalyam, sleep, nidra, deep sleep, supti, awakening, bodha. So we'll discuss more of these in a moment. Some sanchari bhavs are independent, swatantra, and some are dependent, paratantra. Para means other, that means, and swa means own. That's the prefix of those words. There are two types of dependent sanchari bhavs, superior, vara, and inferior, avara. The superior category is also divided into two types, namely direct, shakshat, and separated or secondary, yavahita. The independent sanchari bhavs are divided into three types: those that are devoid of rati shunya, subsequently contacting rati anusparshana, and having a trace of rati gandha. So again, we've got these divisions, rather like the sattviga bhavs. When these bhavs appear in people who are averse to Krishna, or are perceived in inappropriate people or things, they are divided into two types, namely unfavorable, pratikul, and improper, anushchitya. All these bhavs have four conditions: generation, utpatti, union, sandhi, overcoming, shabalya, and pacification, shanti. Brajana. Generation of bhav utpatti, can be easily understood. But what is union, bhav sandhi? So, generation of bhav, that means the growth of bhav, when bhav is manifesting. Bhav utpatti can be easily understood. But what is union, bhav sandhi? Goswami, bhav sandhi occurs when two bhavs, either of the same type or of different types, meet together. For example, when inertness caused by one's loved one, ishta, and inertness caused by something else both arise at the same time, this is an instance of union of two identical emotions, swarup bhav sandhi. I just have to read that again. Bhav sandhi occurs when two bhavs, either of the same type or of different types, meet together. So either the same or different. For example, when inertness caused by one's loved one, ista, and inertness caused by something else both arise at the same time, this is an instance of the union of two identical emotions, So two identical emotions can manifest simultaneously. One is towards the lover and one is arising in a form of inertness caused by that emotion. Of two identical emotions, Swarup Bhav Sandhi. Conversely, jubilation and apprehension arising simultaneously is an example of union of two different types of bhav, Bina Bhav Sandhi. So, jubilation and apprehension.
Opposites.
Yes, they're not well, they are opposite in a sense, but we can appreciate how they can both arise simultaneously. You can be overjoyed at the same time some anxiety might be there, or apprehension. Brajanath, what is overcoming? Bhav Shabalya. Goswami, Bhav Shabalya is the clashing and jostling of many bhavs, in which one bhav suppresses another and becomes predominant. For instance, when Kamsa heard about Krishna, he became angry and fearful at the same time. This is an example of Bhav Shabalya. So he was angry, that means like aggressively, fearless, and fearful at the same time. So,
Beautiful.
yes, it is. It is, it's incredible. Brajanath, what is pacification? Bhav Shanti. Goswami, Bhav Shanti occurs when an extremely powerful bhav becomes pacified. When the Brijvasis could not see Krishna nearby, they were very anxious. That anxiousness is chintya, we've just described it here in the page. Where is it? Chintya, anxiety. But their apprehension was at once pacified. That is, it went far away when they heard the sound of his Vamsi. This is the pacified condition of despondency, Rishad. So they had become despondent, but then they heard the sound of Krishna's flute and they were pacified. This is the pacified condition of despondency, Vishad. Brajanath, if we are qualified to know anything more about this subject, then please tell us. Goswami, although there are 41 bhavs that cause transformations of the body and senses, I'll explain. These are the 33 Vyabhachari bhavs, one of the Mukhya Sthai bhavs, because it's one that's applicable to us, and also the 7 Gona Sthai bhavs that I shall describe later. These are all the propensities of the heart, chittavriti, that cause bhav to arise. Brajanath, which types of bhav do they arouse? Goswami, they produce the Ashtasattvika bhavs and the anubhavs that come in the category of vibhavs. So that's focused on the Vishaya. If we are as the Ashraya, then it's focusing on Rati, on the Vishaya. Brajanath, are all the bhavs natural and inborn? Goswami, no. Some of them are natural, while others are transitory. They just come and go. The Bhakta's Sthai bhav is his natural bhav, and the Vyabhachari bhavs are transitory. So that's very simple to appreciate. Do all bhaktas have the same type of bhav? That means these bhavs that we've been describing. Goswami, there are different types of bhaktas according to the difference in the dispositions of their respective minds, manobhav. So there is a gradation of awakening of bhavs, depending on the disposition of the mind. We said many times, the unique speciality of each individual according to our propensities. This awakening is of 3 types: Garista, heavy; Lagista, light; and Gambhira, grave. However, the nature of nectar is that it is always liquid, and the heart of the Krishna Bhakta is like nectar by nature. I shall stop here for today. Tomorrow I will explain Staibhav. Vijay and Brajanath offer Sastang Dandavats to Sri Guru Goswami. Taking his position, they left for their place of residence. So now I want to just elaborate a little bit more by reading some examples from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Bindu. And we've been going, this is in chapter 15, it's on page 187 in the new edition, and it's just elaborating further. So all of the 33 Vyabhachari Bhavs are listed here very clearly. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is giving an overview. He's giving us an idea to form the structure of what is Ras. And then we, in our meditation and sadhan, we will fill in that structure because it's a very individual, personalized mood that is within that structure. But this is the structure that is going to be contained in. So he's just given it briefly and simply, but here in the Bindu, it's a little more detailed. So I'm going to read from this old version. It's just, I find it personally fascinating to consider these Vyabhachari Bhavs and what they constitute of. So I'm just going to read a few of these descriptions just for our increased education in this topic of Vyabhachari Bhavs, because I don't really want to go to the next chapter today. I prefer to start a chapter at the beginning of each day. So, but I want to just go over some of these Vyabhachari Bhavs. So the first, this nirved, self-disparagement, means to reproach oneself, considering oneself to be fallen and worthless. But this is not in the material sense. This is in the spiritual sense. Nirved arises from great distress, feelings of separation, jealousy, non-performance of duty, and performance of non-duty. Not doing what you should do and doing what you shouldn't do. In nirved, anxiety, tears, change of color, feelings of worthlessness, heavy sighing, and other anubhavs are manifest. So these are anubhavs that are manifesting. And the anubhavs, if they're focused on rati, these are going to be experienced by the nitya siddha parikas, these eternally perfected souls. They will experience, because we read many times of the moods of separation of the gopis. Actually, in Ananda Vrindavan Champu, there's descriptions where it's described that they feel like they've been bitten by millions of scorpions and cut by razor blades in this mood of separation. This is how they feel for just a moment or two, and then it transcends that. But these feelings are there. Another one, vishad, despondency or depression, arises from non-attainment of one's desired objects. Sri Krishna, inability to complete some endeavor that was begun for Krishna due to the appearance of some calamity that befalls Krishna or due to an offense. The symptoms of vishad are seeking for a remedy and assistance, anxiety, crying, lamentation, breathing heavily, change of color, and drying of the mouth. All of these are extreme emotions, emotional states, which are fascinating to consider. I'll read from this book now. So, dainya is the third one, wretchedness or humility. To consider oneself despicable and unworthy is called dainya. Dainya arises from distress, fear, and offenses. The symptoms of dainya are speaking words of adulation, awkwardness, incompetence of the heart, gloominess, anxiety, and inertia of the limbs. So these are all extraordinary states of consciousness, that we can, we're being given like an open window to consider and appreciate these different stages. Glani, physical and mental debility. The principle of vital energy and action throughout the body is called oja. The weakness that arises from the waning of this vital energy, brought about by excessive labor, shrama, by mental oppression, or by amorous activities, is called glyani. The symptoms of glyani are trembling, inactivity, change of color, weakness, and restlessness of the eyes. So, I've never read these publicly before, but I've read them many times just for my own purification. But if we're considering these Vyabhachari bhavs within the moods of the gopis, then simply we are just appreciating these different emotional exchanges or emotional states they are coming to. Like, for example, Chandravali. She knows that Krishna loves Radhika more than her. She knows that. At the same time, she has so much anurag, so much attraction to Krishna, and Krishna appreciates that. So Chandravali really has to suffer in a sense. From the material conditioned point of view, it appears like that. So she goes through these transcendental stages of extreme jealousy, and so does Radhika towards Chandravali. This is why they both exist. You have the opposition party, otherwise there can be no stimulation. If everything is just going one way, then there's going to be no extra endeavor. But when there's actually an opposition party, then both parties have to make greater endeavor to capture Krishna's attention, etc. It's all designed to heighten prem. All the dynamics, these dynamics of Vyabhachari bhavs are designed to heighten prem, to heighten the prem. They're very deep. Mada, intoxication, the delight or exuberance that extinguishes knowledge is called mada. This mada arises from drinking honey and from excessive amorous agitation. The symptoms of mad are stumbling, tottering, stammering speech, rolling the eyes, and redness of the eyes. Every single day in Madhyana Lila, all the Sakis and Krishna, they drink this honey mead and they all become intoxicated. They talk about why is the earth rolling so much now? And they all go into a state of intoxication. And it's very sweet to appreciate that. So this is this description here. Garva, pride, the disregard for others that occurs due to one's own good fortune. Beauty, youth, qualities. It's described particularly when during the Ras Leela at the beginning, that the gopis were feeling so much pride in their fortune of having danced with Krishna. This mood was there prominently in their hearts. But Krishna wanted to purify that. But still it was a pride in Krishna. So it's completely transcendental. But at the same time, it was obstructing the full-blown bliss of the Ras Leela, which is later purified by that pastime I've just recently described about Radharani and their meeting like that. So disregard for others, yes, because this mood of thinking themselves the most fortunate women in the universe. Refuge, Sri Krishna, or attainment of one's desired object is called garva. The symptoms of garva are disdainful speech, not answering another simply to amuse oneself, displaying one's limbs, concealing one's intention, and not listening to another's words. So we can read ourselves all of these different descriptions of the Vyabhachari bhavs. They're quite remarkable and fascinating. There's where's this Avahita? I'm going to read that one. Avahita, concealment of emotions. This is how the gopis, when they first meet Krishna in the Pranaya Gita, they are concealing their attraction and affection for Krishna, and Krishna is concealing his attraction for them. But Krishna wants to see their attraction, so he tells them all to go home. Then he knows he's going to make them angry or impatient with him, and how will they respond then? So he wants to bring that out. He wants to break that shyness within them. So this avahita, concealment of emotions, to display emotions artificially in order to conceal one's true confidential feelings or emotions, is called avahita. The symptoms of avahita are hiding the limbs that betray those emotions, looking elsewhere, futile action, and impaired speech. So these are all the deeper intricacies of these Vyabhachari bhavs. So 33 mentioned very beautifully here. And then we go on to the next chapter in this Bhakti Rasa Amrita Sindhu Bindu, and it's describing what we just touched on at the very end of this chapter 27. These three, how did Bhaktivinoda Thakur speak it? The awakening of the three types of Garista, Lagista, and Gambhira. This heavy, light, and grave. So this is described on page 199 in detail on this. Yes. Huh? Page, oh, it's in chapter, text 16. Text 16 if you have a Kindle or something. Yes. So we have the divisions of Karkash, hard, and Garista, heavy. The heart, which is heavy, is compared to gold. Very beautiful descriptions. And then Gambhira, deep. The heart, which is deep, is compared to an ocean. That's Gambhira. And then Mahishta, big. The heart, which is big, is compared to a city. And there's further descriptions here about it. Very beautiful. And then there are Komala, soft. Lagista, light. The heart, which is light, is compared to cotton. When the winds of emotion come, if the heart is light, it will completely respond to those emotions externally. But if the heart is heavy like gold, it will be much more grave and will hold those emotions down somewhat. And then Utana, shallow. The heart, which is shallow, is compared to a pond. And Shodishta, tiny. The heart, which is tiny, is compared to a cottage. So all of these also are explained very beautifully in this Bindu. For example, Garista and Lagista, this heavy and light is described. Emotion that arises in the heart of these two types is compared to the wind. A strong wind has no influence on a lump of gold, but even a slight breeze will send a cotton ball flying. That's what I just described here. Gambhira, deep like the ocean. Emotion that arises in the heart of those two types is compared to a mountain peak. Even if a huge boulder or a mountain peak falls into the ocean, no disturbance is seen in the ocean. But if a pebble is thrown into a small pond, all the water is agitated. See these contradictions, very amazing. Now Mahishta and Lagishta, large and small. These two types of emotion that arise in the heart are compared to a lamp and an elephant. In a great city, lamps and elephants are not noticed, but before a cottage they are clearly seen. Beautiful examples. So this is all in connection with the emotions rising, etc., and their hardness or softness. That's what is described in text 16. So these are the what Bhaktivinoda Thakur was just concluding this chapter, but he didn't go into any details because I think he's understanding that if someone's going to do a study of this, they have to have this Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu alongside to go more deeply into it. But if you just read it as it is, you're going to get so much, you're going to get the structure very clearly, but you're not really going to appreciate the terminologies sufficiently. But by reading the Bindu, then these terminologies will become much more clear. So I think I'll stop today, a few minutes early.
Question.
Oh, you have a question? Yeah.
So Maharaj, there are 40 chapters here,
Yeah.
and there are quite a few less in the Bindu. How do these chapters correlate in terms of their numbers to the...
When you read them,
Yeah.
you'll discover.
Okay.
It's like, for example, in the last description is the description of Vyabhachari Bhavs.
Yeah. So
This is one text.
Yeah.
But in here, the Vyabhachari Bhavs, the Sattvika Bhavs, and the Anubhavs are all in one chapter.
Yeah.
So this is more condensed, and this is more opened out. But it's still following in complete sequence, because previously we've just read in text 14 about Vibhav is there,
Yes.
and Sattvika Bhavs is there, which we just read.
Sequence is exactly the
And the
same.
yes, it's exactly paralleling. But sometimes the Bindu will open it a little more, and sometimes the, just like now, Bhaktivinoda Thakur wasn't talking about this Garista, Lagista, and Gambhira. He wasn't mentioning that particularly strongly, but here it's opening right out. So that's how it's corresponding. If you just keep reading this, like after the Vyabhachari Bhavs, after this description, is going to come the 5 types of Staiba, which is going to be spoken in the next chapter, this Rasavichar and Mukhya Rati, because Mukhya Rati means the principal Rati, principal Bhav. The principal Bhav is the Staiba, is the emperor. It's described as the emperor of all the Bhavs, is the Staiba. So that'll be described in the next chapter. So it's paralleling pretty much all the way through.
Right, thank you.
But it's really, really helpful. Okay, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai, Rasa Tattva ki jai, Ananta Kota Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Gold Premanandi. All my intention is to do is actually to read what is here and to give us the appreciation of the structure of Rasa Tattva. And it's up to us, ourselves, to go into the internal meditation on all these different topics. I'm not going to go so much into that at this point, but with smaller groups we can do like that. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai, Ananta Kota Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Go Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol, Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai, Gaur Premanandi. Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhu Patita Pavanibhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha.